I'm Brett.
And I'm Alice.
And we are the prosecutors. Today on The Prosecutors, our live Patreon Get Vokl. You had questions, we had answers.
I've missed all these because I work a lot.
Thanks for working.
Yeah, working's for the birds. I don't like it. I was just telling my wife today we needed to all retire and join a commune. And I said we would join a commune with you, Alice. And I said that she and your husband have to start a podcast. And that way we can have dual incomes.
Would it be called the prosecutor spouses?
I like it. I like it.
You know, it's not kind of a mouthful, but I think it can work.
Well, yeah, it can work.
It's accurate.
Okay, everybody, welcome. Welcome to this episode of The Prosecutors, live episode of The Prosecutors with all our favorite people. Let's get vocal with our patrons, our best patrons. I am drinking, for those who wonder. I'm having a bourbon, sort of easing myself back into this whole drinking thing because it had been a while. So, but for you guys.
You're easing yourself with bourbon? I don't think that's really easing in.
One bourbon. I'm gonna take this one slow. It's not gonna be like me drinking the whole bottle like it was at one time. All right, everybody. So awesome to be here. I can't tell you how happy I am to be here. Sorry we missed last month. Obviously, it was crazy. But we're back. And hopefully you saved up all your questions and you can ask them now. And we have Hillary here in the hotspot. Now, I also have questions that people have emailed in, which we'll do as well. But Hillary is brave. She's the only person who's joined us on the screen here. There's an open spot.
Join me too.
I know. You guys are leaving her hair hanging all by herself.
I'm here with you, Hillary.
There you go. Alice has got your back.
And not in a closet. So yay.
LaCroix. Is it LaCroix or LaCroix?
LaCroix.
This is LaCroix.
Yeah. Because it's not really that fancy.
I know. So I have my bubbly. But my bubbly is just grapefruit. It's not pamplemousse.
It's not pamplemousse, but mine's also not. Mine's passion fruit.
Oh, yours is passion fruit.
It's a passionate.
Because you have so much passion.
I have a lot of passion for what we're about to talk about tonight, which I don't know what it is because it's y'all led.
Exactly. So, okay. Well, hello, Hillary. Welcome, Hillary. What's up? Thank you. I'm glad you could join us today.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Do you have any burning questions that you've been wanting to ask, but work's kept you from being able to ask? Or are you just hanging out? Hanging out's fine.
I'm kind of hanging out. I still really think you guys should do an episode with an English prosecutor because I love the differences in the system. So just going to throw that out there like for the fourth or fifth time that I think that would be great.
That would be awesome. If there's any English prosecutors out there listening, hit us up.
I'm sure you guys can network. You have 1 trillion downloads now.
There you go.
Not quite, but thank you for your vote of confidence. But I agree. I recently, like a decade behind everybody, but I recently finished Broadchurch, and I have so many questions about the English prosecution system. I have my doubts that it's completely accurately portrayed, but
I hope not.
Well, it's so vastly different from what's allowed here that I would actually love to have that conversation because it was great. Anyone who's looking to watch a show that's like, 7 years old, but haven't watched it yet, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I've seen both that and the American version, and I will tell you the British version, much better. As is
David Tennant. I mean,
exactly. Well, he's in both.
He's amazing.
Oh, is he in both?
Okay.
He's in both.
I've seen the American one.
But he's better in the British one because he doesn't have this weird American accent.
What I like about British TV is they're not afraid to completely break your heart. No spoilers there. But if you want to be devastated completely, watch a BBC show because
And the American version makes this little change at the end.
Don't tell me. I haven't seen it.
Just to be a little less.
I don't want to know either. I'll watch it.
I don't want to know.
Just watch the last episode. The rest of it's exactly the same.
Okay.
Except Teresa,
the U.S. version is Grace Point.
That's it.
Grace Point, because I looked it up because I was curious.
Yep. And I got to say, it seems like people in Britain don't actually have any rights. That was sort of what I took away from it. Like, it seems like it's a lot easier to prosecute people in Britain because you don't have to worry about any of this stuff. You just lock them in a room and yell at them until they, admit it.
Yeah, I guess they'll do 24-hour question. I don't know. I mean, there was another Criminal Minds UK or something where it was just nothing but these people in this room for 24, 48 hours. And all they would say was, I have no comment. But David Tennant did one of those too. And so I have no comment from him is Oscar worthy.
Yeah, exactly. He is amazing.
I agree with that for sure.
He's the only Doctor Who I ever saw. I never watched Doctor Who, but I've seen several of his episodes, and they were all heartbreaking. So, anyway, we've gotten way off topic. I don't know if we have a topic. Well, we will do that. We'll get her. I would hey, if there's anybody who's British or Canadian or anything, Japanese, French, Russian, whatever you are out there, prosecutors. Reach out to us and we'll do a show with you and we can talk about the differences in our systems. You can tell us how much better your system is than ours. We'll laugh at you behind your back.
A comparative law episode. I like it.
Oh my goodness. Well, actually, since we're talking about other countries, I do have a comment. It's more of a comment than a question from someone from Germany, and I will read it to you. This is about the Hinterkaifeck case. I thought this was really interesting. So those of you who remember Hinterkaifeck, it says, German listener, hello from Germany. To your question about Lorenz's alibi, I have found a transcript of his second police interview in which he states that he was with his wife all night, a fact which she contradicts, saying he was sleeping alone in hay or something that is called a hay watch. He was apparently pretty upset about that. In the same interview, he also confirms his statement about seeing half-dug holes in the ground, which led him to assume the killers might be trying to bury the bodies. And that's from Caro. So thank you, Caro. That's great on-the-ground information. And just, I think, further serves to reinforce our conclusion, spoiler alert, that Lorenz was responsible for that historical mystery.
Indeed.
I also found out
nobody has questions about Cosby or Britney Spears. That would be shocking.
Oh, I have a thought about Britney Spears. I mean, I guess it's supposed to be you guys. But
I would love to hear that. I'm so far behind because school, I decided I could take 9 hours and I couldn't, but I have to now. And so I'm so far behind that I'm way behind on your guys' stuff. So
God bless you working and going to school at the same time.
Yeah, it's hard, but whatever.
Okay, let me ask this before we dive into it. Those of you in the chat room, did anyone listen to it yet? It's okay if you haven't. You don't have to jump on the newest release episodes, but have you listened to it and do you disagree with us? Because we have not gotten as much hate mail as I thought we were going to. And it might be because people haven't listened yet.
None. No hate mail.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I truly, because I will say my gut reaction was, oh my goodness, let Britney go. But if you dig into it a little bit more, it's not as simple as that. And I agree with Shannon. I think, her statements alone are heartbreaking. But with respect to conservatorships, there do need to be independent assessments. Sorry, spoiler. If you're in here and haven't listened to it, I'm sorry. But if you guys have thoughts, if there are any psychiatrists, psychologists in here, social workers, we'd actually love to hear from you in terms of if you've had an experience with conservatorships and what the process is in terms of getting the proper assessments done and what sort of bar needs to be met for the conservatorship to be ended.
There's actually breaking news on this because today this is continuing. This is the thing. This is sort of an ongoing court thing. People were really upset, but this is ongoing. Britney is going to be allowed to hire her own attorney.
Wow.
So that's a significant thing. And I think that's a good thing. She should have representation. That is her own representation.
Yeah.
And it's a weird thing, right? Because the whole conservatorship, the assumption is the people who are your conservators are supposed to be looking out for your best interest. So why would you need your own lawyer, right? They represent you and their lawyers represent you. And this is obviously, the other problem, and we talked about this a little bit in the show, when you get into these kind of things, the law kind of breaks down. It really doesn't work like it's supposed to because it's really impossible to craft a legal system to deal with something that is so individual and has its own complications in every single instance. And I think that's what you're seeing here. This is such a unique situation, and it just feels like what we're seeing happening does not match reality in some ways.
Well,
I was going to say one thing, and then I want to hop off because I'm tired of looking at myself. But I will say I read her transcript, and I'm in psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner school, so a little bit of don't know the legalities of all that, but understand the mental health issues of it. Her thought process was very tangential in those transcripts. They really, to me, showed a level of impairment. I can't really say because I didn't watch the video or see her reaction, but you can definitely tell her thought process is still very disorganized. And I can see where there would be some hesitation there, definitely without an evaluation. I mean, I think it's fair, but again, 13 years for a conservatorship is crazy long for a young person. So that's my thought, and I'm going to bounce off. So I hope somebody else
Thank you for coming. It's really good to
Thank
see
you,
your face.
Hillary.
Hillary
That's an
jumped off,
interesting
but
insight.
I agree with that, Hillary. I think that's a great point, because what the media did, and I think is very misleading, is they take snippets, right? They take the snippet about, I want to have a baby, but they won't let me remove my IUD. There's so many ... in between. That is a coherent thought. And also they take out the parts like, I was strapped to a bed. But there's so many, and that is a thought that was within her testimony, but you really have to read her entire testimony in total to kind of see her train of thought and where she's getting. And I agree, if I had a witness who was speaking with that kind of speech pattern and that thought pattern, we would probably take a sidebar and talk about mental competency. I'm not talking about her competency for conservatorship purposes, but I agree with Hillary. The way she spoke and the way her mind worked in that 15-minute, 20-minute long statement was not a typical pattern. It would certainly raise red flags for me if she were testifying for my case.
Yeah, Elizabeth, and LA Not So Confidential. If you haven't listened to their episode, it's about an hour long. It's really good. I mean, it's they obviously have experience with lawyers because they often testify in court, and so their experience is sort of a little different. But what they have a lot of experience with is the actual process of conservatorships and what they're for, like, and the people they're addressed to and what you have to do to get one. And there's a couple things about this. Number one, I think Alice is absolutely right. You got to read the transcript. She said that in the show, and it's so true. You can read the whole thing, like, and I don't know why this is, but it just seems like more and more you just can't trust anything you read anymore. So like you just have to go to the source. I know none of us have time to do that, but if you really care about something, you just have to read the original stuff. You can't trust anything anyone tells you. You can't even trust us. Like, don't trust us. Trust no one. So go read the original thing. One thing I wanted to address that I think was interesting that a lot of people have said is, well, if she has all these problems, why are they making her perform, right? And number one, we don't know that she doesn't want to perform. In fact, everything I've read, the only time she's really happy is when she's like in the studio and she's choreographing stuff and she's performing. And I also don't think we want to say that just because even if you have some sort of mental illness to the point where you need a conservatorship, doesn't mean if you're capable of working and you want to work, you shouldn't be able to work, right? I mean, they shouldn't be locking her in her room, in the top floor of the mansion or whatever, like out of some 18th century novel either. And I just feel like so much of this is really complicated. And I really think this is a huge step with her getting her own lawyer. I think there has to be an independent evaluation. That was the other thing. The fact that she was asking to be released without an independent evaluation, that was just never going to happen because she's in it for a reason. And whatever you think is going on right now, the fact that she's in it makes it harder to get out of it. And it's just so complicated. And we can't, I mean, it's so complicated. We can barely even scratch the surface on it from where we're sitting.
Yeah, some of you are saying not just the transcript, but the way in which she spoke the words was distressing. She did speak really quickly. She ran on her own sentences.
Now, she may have been terrified and really nervous,
Sure.
and this is like the first opportunity she's ever had to speak about this, and so she's like really shook up. But
one thing I will note for those of you who've seen the Free Britney documentary, it was really interesting because it seemed like there were a lot of sound bites within her statement that actually came from, like, it was their slogans. It was almost like she watched the documentary and thought, oh, that's me. They discovered it for me. And she even says it. She says, I'm sorry for saying I'm okay on my Instagram. I didn't realize it at the time. And that's actually a really interesting feature of someone who may be mentally vulnerable is that they're very impressionable. That's why you have to be careful when you are interviewing a witness who you think may be mentally vulnerable, because you can impress upon, we saw this in the Robert Durst case, you can impress upon them facts and they kind of adopt it as their own. And I found that really, I don't know if anyone else found that to be the case when they read or listened to her testimony, but I kind of felt like she had just watched the documentary and she was like, oh yeah, that's me. That is me. And I'm not saying it's not, but there was such an about face and a parroting of kind of what was in the media as opposed to originating from her, that I found very, very interesting.
And somebody asked in the chat, if they lift the conservatorship, will she just be left, under the control of her father? Will it just be, no? I mean, what will happen is, she'll just be like anybody else, right? I mean, she'll just be a person who has a lot of money and is free to do whatever they want. And if she's perfectly healthy, or even if she just has some problems, I mean, look, just the fact that you have some mental illness, even a lot of mental illness, doesn't necessarily mean that someone should control every aspect of your life, right? I mean, conservatorships are supposed to be for fairly serious mental issues. Now, there's a big spectrum that can cover, but it's supposed to be fairly serious. But, the last thing I think anybody wants, and what really scares me is, tomorrow the judge is like, absolutely, I'm freeing Britney. I'm tired of people saying I'm being paid off by her dad. Free Britney. And she just goes free. And then she is just, the jackals come, right? I mean, if she is someone who's suffering from serious mental illness, all of a sudden you have somebody who's suffering from serious mental illness, who is isolated from everyone she's ever known or loved, who has no protection, and who has a whole lot of money. And that is somebody that's a scary thought, because it would be very easy to seriously take advantage of her. And I think that's what the court is really trying to avoid from happening. And yeah, the paparazzi are awful. I mean, what was done to her over the last, I don't even know when to start it. I mean, you could start it in 1997, but what was done to her from 2000 to the present, the whole Perez Hilton and the paparazzi and, the story of her shaving her hair. You guys who listen to LA Not So Confidential, that is just heartbreaking, right? Because basically the reason she did that was she was just sick of people messing with her all the time. And you could just imagine it, right? That every time she moved, she had to have her hair fixed. She had to sit in a chair for an hour while someone styled her hair, because Britney Spears can't have her hair out of place when she leaves, right? What about your image? What about everything you're trying to do? And she's just sick of it and wanted to get rid of it. And I don't know. I mean, the whole thing is really sad, but I think it can be made a lot sadder if people with the best of intentions get her in a position where she can be severely taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm. And just because I saw this question in the chat earlier and someone commented on this on one of our platforms, was the fact that if she's not doing well now, the indications may be that she is not ready to end a conservatorship. Doesn't that mean the conservatorship hasn't been successful because she's not better? That is a very difficult question to answer in a vacuum. First of all, conservatorship is not supposed to make you mentally better. The purpose of the conservatorship is to protect your assets and to protect others from preying on, in her case, probably her money and her fame. It is not a mental health facility to help you get mentally better, to get you more competent, to get you whatever. That's not the purpose of a conservatorship. And we just don't know. Again, in a vacuum, we don't know where she started. We don't know where she would be. We don't know what type of treatment she's gotten and how much worse off or better off she would be with or without it. So I just note that because that's kind of the only criticism I've seen directed at our episode. And I wanted to address that, to know what the purpose of a conservatorship is. And that, again, we know nothing with respect to her treatment and with respect to her diagnosis and what her treatment has been and should be.
Yeah. I mean, this whole conservatorship thing. It is a very, what is the word I'm looking for? Imprecise tool, right? For a very specific problem. And, you would hope that the people who are in charge of her are working with her to get her some health treatment if she can recover. I mean, my understanding really of most conservatorships was there was never, and I realize it's not 100% true, but for a lot of people who are in a conservatorship, there is no expectation they will ever recover. That the conservatorship is sort of to take care of them really in perpetuity I know that most conservatorships are not indefinite anymore. They have to be, renewed in the courts to avoid this very kind of thing and to make sure people are being taken care of. But, and I think that's one reason this is weird, because she is so young. It's not something where like she has dementia. She's not an elderly person who has dementia, who has no family, who the state is having to step in and sort of take over her life and help her. And I think that's what normally happens. I mean, this is just a very weird thing. And, look, I think it is quite possible that somebody said there's a lot of crazy nuances and there's crazy rumors, and I don't know her father. I mean, I've read the same thing you guys have read, right? And the way he's portrayed in the media is that basically he's a terrible, awful person, and maybe he is, and maybe it is the case that when she was involuntarily committed 15 years ago or whatever, they just saw that as an opportunity. Like, we can get control of this cash cow and make all the money we want to make. Totally possible. And I think that's one reason it's great that she has her own lawyer. I am kind of surprised that it took so long to have her own lawyer. I've never dealt with conservatorship before, but I have dealt with competency in the sort of, are you competent to stand trial thing, which is very different, by the way, from whether or not you're innocent or guilty or innocent by reason of insanity. In fact, there's a case going on right now. You guys all know about it. Chad and Lori Dable case. And Lori has been found incompetent to stand trial. And what that means is that you can't be tried under the Constitution if you have no idea what's going on, right? Like, if you can't assist your lawyer, if you can't, strategize or understand the proceedings. Like, we're not just going to take somebody who is insane, put them in a courtroom and have a trial. Like, it was just, that's the whole basis of the Constitution and the adversarial system, and confronting your accusers all kind of falls away if the person who's being tried doesn't understand any of that. So imagine you could be perfectly sane, completely sane, 100% sane when you committed the crime, such that you could not use the insanity defense. And everybody agrees with that. But for whatever reason, in between then and when you're going to trial, you have decompensated. And now you have, you think you're an alien from Mars or whatever. And it doesn't even have to be that bad. And, then you have to have a competency determination. And often what happens then is you have a lawyer who represents you, but you also have a guardian ad litem. And the guardian ad litem is kind of like a conservator, I guess. It's like, obviously your lawyer and your guardian both have your interest at heart, but they're both representing you in a different way. And so in front of the court.
Just to draw that line for you, your guardian ad litem, all they care about is the well-being of the person. They don't care if that decision could negatively affect your legal case. All they care about is you. You may have heard about guardian ad litem in like child custody cases where the child gets a guardian ad litem that just cares about the kid. This is where the kid should go to school. This is the kid would do better if they stayed in this state versus this state. It may have nothing to do with the legal side. Whereas that the person who has the guardian ad litem in the legal case, their lawyer has to also keep in mind what's best for their legal case and their defense. So they differ ever so slightly, but you can see how sometimes they might be at odds with each other.
Yeah, because you could imagine the lawyer looking at the evidence and saying, man, if we go to trial, we're going to win. If they got no case, let's go to trial, And the guardian ad litem's like, yeah, but our guy, he doesn't understand any of that. And mental health treatment's much better for him. So much better if he's confined to a mental health facility where he's getting treatment and he's being taken care of, right? And you can see how those interests are different. And what's interesting, if you're an incompetent to stand trial, usually one of two things are going to happen. Either you're just going to be let go. They're just going to say, well, you committed a crime. Everybody knows you committed a crime, but we're just dismissing the charges because you can't comprehend what you did. And so, good luck to you. Or the other extreme, you are put in a facility indefinitely until you are competent to stand trial. And that usually happens if you're considered to be dangerous to yourself or to others. And, you could be there forever. You could be there for the rest of your life on like a relatively minor offense because of that.
Teresa asked the question, can the conservatorship of the body be ended but keep the financial type in place? So this is where it's difficult. It's not like the one that Britney is under. And I don't even think I know all the specifics of Britney's conservatorship, but the reason hers includes, I guess, control of her body and whatnot. Again, she mentioned the IUD. I don't know what specific details are in her conservatorship. It goes back to at the very beginning when the court decided that she needed to be in a conservatorship and what specifically she needed. So it was tailored to her at the time. And so to answer that question is, I think she needs an assessment by an independent, medical person, because the control over her body, whatever it may be, is the control over her body was put in place for a reason. Have those reasons changed? I don't know, independent of that.
Like, I remember that story. I don't even know where the story comes from. I think it's British, about the guy who just like walked down the street and just threw his money. He was just throwing his money to everybody. And, that was great. And everybody got money, but he was crazy. So I think you could imagine a situation in which somebody is not a danger to themselves and is perfectly capable of taking care of every aspect of their life. But for whatever reason, when it comes to like their finances, they are just insane. They're like delusional even. And I think you probably could have a very narrowly tailored conservatorship that's just aimed at that, and it not be broader. I mean, the problem is
oftentimes that's done by trust, though. If it's really just financial, typically, I mean, unless the person refuses to put their assets into a trust, but you have trust, you can hire a trustee. So, that the fact that they didn't go the trust route makes me think that there was a reason. Maybe it was that way that the media didn't even know about, that the public doesn't know about. I don't know that. I don't know what sort of self-harm, or they were afraid of the self-harm, or they were afraid of what she may do to her sons. I'm speculating to what it is, but it's not that every conservatorship has both the financial and the, physical body.
And we can only speculate, because we just don't know. Everybody acts like they know everything, but we actually don't know really anything, because all this is private information. I mean, the most private information. And the other thing, is this is California, and as we say all the time, every state is different. So California has its laws about conservatorships, and it's funny because I keep hearing about this, but I still have not seen an expert in California conservatorships sort of give their opinions on all this. I think a lot of people would rather listen to people like us who don't really know what we're talking about, because it's kind of more interesting than somebody who's like, no, actually, it's just this way and everything else is wrong.
We keep asking for experts, but no one's come up. So maybe there are no experts right now. That is a good point, Teresa. It could have been done to ensure that, she was compliant with her medication. Maybe she was in such a dangerous place mentally that if she didn't follow a strict regimen, she could have become very dangerous to herself or others. That's very possible. But again, we're all just speculating here. And we touch on this quickly in our episode, but the reason we don't know anything is very proper. It's because all of our medical information, the reason you go to the doctor's office, you have to sign all those release forms and list every single person who's allowed to look at your records, if you allow them to, is because of HIPAA laws. The Congress has affirmatively said that our medical records are private and they're our own, and other people don't get a right to just have that. And so that is the case here. That's why we don't know anything about her. And I think that's proper. We shouldn't know about her diagnoses. We shouldn't know exactly what regimen of medication she's having, but the conservators and the judges and whatnot, they should know that. And we do see medical records for people who are in our courtroom, people who we are either prosecuting or have on the stand.
And nobody understands HIPAA. It's everybody's favorite law. I mean, I don't understand it. I just want to be clear. Like
private.
we have dealt with HIPAA a lot because of the pandemic. And I don't know. I feel like we reached a lot of conclusions about it that were weird when it was going on, but I don't know. HIPAA's kind of like the First Amendment, right? First Amendment covers everything. HIPAA covers everything.
Sure.
But it actually doesn't cover most things. But anyways, is really nobody going to join? Nobody's going to grab a spot?
Is
Nobody's
everyone just
brave
shy because you
enough?
haven't seen us for a month? Is that what's going on?
You can turn off the camera. Like, you can just appear by voice. Like, you don't actually have to appear by camera. That is one of the things.
Thank you. Elizabeth says she's a healthcare attorney and doesn't understand HIPAA. That makes me feel so much better.
Thank you. Oh, Alicia, our favorite Taylor Swift fan.
Okay, well, do you want to go to one of the questions that was
driving? Why is that stopping you? Sure. Okay.
Don't drive in Vokl. Don't drive and get Vokl.
Somebody emailed us about Delphi, which is always fun. And they say, I have a few thoughts about the man on the bridge. As a nurse, there are certain characteristics that I find striking about the man's gait. And that hip swing, wide leg type gait is more often associated with age-related changes. The absolute earliest that you would start walking like that is roughly 35 years old, even with extra weight, which is young. Can we just say 35, very young. The looking down while walking is more associated with older age, more so than the bridge itself, which is interesting because everybody speculates, is he looking down because he's worried about the bridge? Younger people can look straight forward and anticipate gaps and rely on their, here we go, proprioceptors in their brain to keep them balanced. Maybe glancing down briefly, but would do so using more of a peripheral glance because of their proprioceptors keeping them balanced. And they start to get worse sometime around 35 at the absolute earliest. But you really see these changes significantly around 55, same with the hip sway fat guy gait. I've only ever seen one person walk that way who was under 50 in my experience as a nurse, so it's possible but unlikely. If he was committing the crime alone, he would still need to be young enough and able-bodied enough to perpetrate this crime. I honestly put his age at 50, just one nurse's opinion. Love you guys, Amy.
That's really, really interesting.
That is really interesting.
I mean, I know it's so hard because we have like 1.5 seconds of him walking and he's on a rickety bridge. But I mean, she watches people walk for a living. So
yeah,
that's pretty great.
Well, I've always thought he was older, and that's why I never really understood the second sketch. And I think it's probably one reason why the police have always said that he probably looks younger than he is, because I don't think the police think he's younger either. Like, I don't think the police think he's in his 20s, which the second sketch looks like a guy in his 20s. And, I mean, there has been speculation. There was one person, you guys might have seen this, you might not have, but there was somebody who claimed to have all this inside information and put out this really long sort of description of the inside information they had, who claimed that the second sketch was actually from Snapchat. I think that's probably not true. I don't know where the second sketch came from. We've talked about this a lot, but I always think the first sketch is more accurate, not only because it looks more like the guy you're looking at, but because the age fits more with, I think, what you would expect to see.
Okay, can I ask a question real quick? Oh, wait. Oh, before we get to that very engaging question about Maura Murray, as we always go to, real quick, because I think probably people have this on their mind, but maybe they're being very nice and not asking, Brett, how is your family doing? And how is your sweet baby?
Sweet baby's doing great. We have a lung x-ray due next week, which is important because, for those, I'll just go into all of it with you guys. I don't know how much I've explained about what actually happened or not, but he had something called hydrops, which is essentially when you have all this fluid in your chest that really has no, in our case at least, had no explanation. There's like an easy answer, which they very quickly ruled out, which is also the easiest one to deal with. But so the problem was he was having all this fluid build up in his chest, and they just didn't know if he was going to be able to breathe or not because he had all this fluid. And it was increasing rapidly, so they had to just go. Like, there was no waiting. And, that first 5 minutes was really scary because that's when they were really sort of saying, this is it. They went through all the problems. They're like, we may not be able to get a breathing tube in, he may just never breathe, and they're telling us about, they have a great bereavement team and all this other stuff. It's like, oh my goodness, but anyway, and so he had him and they were able to get the breathing tube in. And then it was just this long process of getting him where he could breathe on the one hand, where they could get the fluid off on the other hand, and where they could stop the fluid from building up on the other. And that's what took, all this time, was that sort of slow process of both sort of weaning him off ventilators, down from the most aggressive to the least aggressive to room air, and then taking out the chest tube, and then making sure the fluid wasn't building up, and then making sure he could eat food, all that crazy stuff. But hey, you guys were praying for us and sending us all your good energy. And, the nurses, they called him a miracle baby a lot. He feels like a miracle baby to us, but he's home with us now. And he's a little smaller than you would expect for somebody who's been here for over a month, but doing great, gaining weight. It's fantastic. And we do, Shannon, somebody, and I don't know, everybody was sending us stuff, so I don't know who this is. So sorry that I can't give you credit for this, but somebody recommended we get an owlet, which we did. And it's like this little thing that wraps around their foot. and it monitors their heart rate and their oxygen level at all times. And so really great, because we were like, how are we ever going to sleep when we bring him home? Because we're nervous about him the whole time. But it has this like alarm that goes off if the oxygen level drops. So that's what we're doing, and we're making it. We're making it.
Thanks
And
for
he is a
sharing.
sweet little angel.
He is. He is a sweet angel. I have not met him yet, and that's totally fine. We're just so glad he's back. So thanks for sharing with everyone. I figured that was on everyone's mind, so I thought I would just ask for everyone. But just so you guys know, and then we'll get back to like, Cosby. Someone asked a Cosby question. So my 3-year-old prayed for Brett's baby by name every night, and it was the sweetest thing. He kept asking when he could play with the new baby. So our whole family truly was just praying for you.
It was very sweet, and Alice would send us those videos, and that was just like, I mean, no better prayers than that, right? Than the 3-year-old. So
that's right.
But no, and so many of you guys, Shannon, son was in ICU for 3 months. So many of you guys had experienced that and shared with us your stories and how you were able to overcome it and where you drew strength and the things that to expect and, and how to sort of, because you just don't, I mean, even when it starts, you're like, so this is like a couple days, right? I mean, you know what I mean? Like we're going to be here for indefinitely, like could be months, at the shortest it's going to be a month, and you don't know how to process that, right? Because you just don't. How do you do that, especially when you have one at home too, and you're trying to keep her in some sort of regular routine? I mean, it was wild, and it was so helpful having you guys, so thank you.
And I'll throw out one fact because Brett never complains, but I was talking to Mrs. Brett, and she said that y'all calculated the number of miles you drove to see the baby because the baby was in another city in the NICU, and y'all drove essentially to Alaska, which is just, across the entire country.
So I'm breaking my rule of no pictures of babies on like the internet, so you guys can see him.
This is my first time to meet him too. Hey,
say hello.
bud.
Say hi, Miss Alice.
Oh my goodness.
Say hey, everybody.
You are so beautiful. Hi. Look at those wide open eyes. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Hi.
You say
okay,
hello?
you know what? Baby boy is getting like so many amazing comments over here, and it's so great.
He is a
it's
sweetheart.
so good to see him.
Time to eat.
You're gonna make me cry right now.
Say bye-bye. Bye-bye, Miss Alice.
Bye. I'm gonna spoil you a lot in our commune.
Thank you, Mrs. Brett. Everybody say hello to Mrs. Brett as well.
She's the greatest. Her podcast is gonna like blow us out of the water. So
Yes,
Prosecutor Spouse is coming to a podcast thing near you. Okay. So thank you, Brett, for sharing. Thank you, baby, for making an appearance. Someone asked a question about Cosby, and I'm trying to scroll up to see it now. Okay, question about Cosby. Would the deal not to prosecute that Bruce Castor came up with still have held if new evidence came to light in the future? So
yes. About this case?
About the specific case with Constand. Yes. With Constand, yes, but not with a different victim who's within the statute of limitations. So one thing about that is all of those 60 women or so came forward because they felt like there was support, right? They were no longer just one nobody accusing one of the biggest stars in media of sexual assault. Now it was we are all together, we can band together. And that's why those women came forward. So it's possible that there is someone within the past 5 years who was sexually assaulted by him, and they feel like they will be believed if they come forward, and maybe they will come forward. If they do, that is a completely separate case. That is a different victim. That case can go forward. But with respect to Andrea Constand, no. That case, I think, is dead in the water. That is it. That's what the Supreme Court said.
And it's so interesting, right? Because I said I thought the Supreme Court got it wrong. And that may just be emotion talking because I really hate the outcome, which is not where you're supposed to make decisions, right? You're supposed to make decisions because it's the law and it's what the law is supposed to be. And I actually thought about this some more after the episode. And I kind of don't know because on the one hand, as we said, the fruit of the poisonous tree is the statements he made. And the statements are a direct result of this. So if you excise the statements, if there's still enough evidence, you can go forward. The problem is what the Supreme Court is doing. They're sort of punishing the state in a way for not getting that official document, right? And Castor has said, and we actually read this part of his statement, that people have used the word agreement, and it wasn't an agreement, right? Like he didn't have an agreement with Cosby. I won't prosecute you if you talk. That's not what it was. It was him just stating, I will not prosecute you. And when I say I mean the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania will never prosecute you for this crime. You cannot plead the fifth. And what the Supreme Court essentially did is they just held them to their word, right? So it's not, well, you got some statements out of him you couldn't have gotten otherwise, so we're just going to exclude that. It's no. You said you will never prosecute him, so you're not going to be able to prosecute him. And it's very stark, but you can understand, why they would say that.
Yeah. I also hope there are no other victims. But and here's the thing, because what's the statute of limitations? 12 years? I'm sorry, I said 5 years. I don't know.
Depends
why
on
that
the
was
state.
on
It's 12 years.
Depends
in
on the
Pennsylvania.
state. Let's say if it was 12 years. Remember, he's been in jail for 3 years or so, and he was under scrutiny, for a little bit before that. But there could be other people coming forward. Sorry, I said 5 years. I meant 12 in Pennsylvania. In every state, it may be different.
And I'll say this: the one good thing is he served 3 years. That was actually his sentence. I think it was like 3 to 12. So the good thing we can take away from this is he at least served 3 years in prison. Little things, right? And as I said, if he had taken responsibility for it and gotten the treatment, they would have paroled him after 3 years, given his age and health issues. But I know that doesn't make anybody feel better about it because the justice wasn't done. There is no justice in this case. So, and I don't know. He seems old and decrepit. Not that being old and decrepit stops you from sexually assaulting people. I know that none of the other cases, or my understanding at least, is that none of the other cases really fall within the statute of limitations. So,
and that was part of the argument for 404B at the trial level when the defense was saying these are so old, they shouldn't be let in because it's not representative of him at this time or today, that, youthful indiscretions, what have you. We hear those arguments a lot. How old a particular related conduct is relevant for your argument.
And Teresa, yes, there is normally a written agreement. And in fact, in Pennsylvania, the rule is it's not only a written agreement, it's an order of the court. When you want to give someone immunity, you're supposed to get an order of the court documenting that for all the reasons we're talking about right now. He didn't do that. But the fact, it's kind of like, now we're getting equity. There's law and there's equity. You really want to get nerdy. We can talk about law and equity and when law and equity merged. There used to be courts of equity. But anyways, the equitable thing is you're the bad actor if you're the prosecutor. You're the one who said, I'm not going to prosecute you. You're the one who said the sovereign of Pennsylvania is not going to prosecute you. You're also the one who didn't go to court and get it documented like you're supposed to. So you can't then turn around and say, well, haha, I know I said that, but I never got it documented. So now you're going to suffer because of that. This is, equitable estoppel is going to stop you from being able to do that. Hillary, it's only relevant in that when in states that have parole, which is most of them, age is always considered as an aspect of parole. So once you serve your minimum sentence, once you're eligible for parole, your age is going to be a consideration because number one, you're not as big a threat to the community. You don't have as long to live. You may have health issues, which are both not as easily treatable in jail and also are a cost to the state. So that's something a lot of states consider is how much money you're costing them. And so, that would be something you would consider a parole.
So Teresa asked, can that lawyer face sanctions now for this? And I assume you mean the DA. So a prosecutor, sure. So not sink. I don't. We'll see what Cosby does when someone serves time in prison. They can, in some states, it depends on the state jurisdiction, file like a civil action for money damages. This doesn't happen often. They're not usually successful. I don't know if Cosby just wants to leave this all behind them or if he wants to kind of drive the knife home, especially because his own statements are pretty incriminating. I don't think anyone doubts that he has sexually assaulted women, and that's multiple women based on his own words. So I don't know whether he will bring that. It is a suit that can be brought, and it's
this
not
is going to
criminal.
disgust. It's going to disgust a lot of people, but I actually think if Cosby sued the Commonwealth, he would win because the DA who prosecuted him was the first assistant. Castor says she knew about this deal. He reminded her of the deal before this happened. And she said, I don't remember and I'm going to prosecute anyway. She prosecutes him. He goes to jail for 3 years. And then the Supreme Court overturns his conviction. That's a pretty good argument for a false or for a
prosecutorial misconduct.
Yeah, prosecutorial misconduct and I can't remember what the word that goes in front of prosecution is, but whatever it is. Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of disgusting, right? That he could do that. And I don't know that he will. And I don't know that he would win, even if he did. But he does have sort of an interesting case for that, given how that all went down. Castor probably would not suffer any sanctions because he should have got it in writing. He should have gotten the order of the court. But it's not as if that was it's not like as if he violated some ethical obligation of the bar. He was always very forthcoming about the fact that he had this agreement. He testified to it. He told the DA that it existed. I think it'd be very hard to do anything to him. Plus, I think he's moved on. He's like some other political position now in Pennsylvania. So I don't think you would see that happening to him. And then, somebody else asked us when we did the episode was whether or not Cosby could sue his lawyers for ineffective assistance of counsel because they didn't get this agreement in writing. That's sort of an interesting question. And that I don't know the answer to that and whether or not he could do that or not. It's more like it's not really ineffective assistance of counsel. It's more like just malpractice. Maybe he could sue them. Maybe he could get some money. But yeah, I know the babies, man. I tell you what, you guys who have 2 or more kids, I don't know how you do it. Like I thought it was, when you have 1, it's pretty difficult. But when you have 2, it's like so much harder than twice as hard. Does that make sense? There you go. Yeah, he's no longer the DA. So. Yeah, Teresa, it is law school 101 that you should always get it in writing. Because for this very reason, like it's possible this could have been a very limited thing, right? Like you could imagine a situation in which the deal is, as long as I am DA, I will never prosecute you. So I'm not binding the sovereign, but I'm binding myself. And then it's very different than what it turned out to be. Does nobody want to join you guys? I mean, there's all these people in the room and it's just gray spaces here at the bottom. Jeffrey MacDonald. Yeah. I mean, I think I said this in the last Get Vokl that Jeffrey MacDonald was one of the cases that got me into true crime. I was already a lawyer. I was already interested in the law, but I wasn't interested in true crime until, really the first true crime book I ever read was In Cold Blood by Truman Capote, which is a classic and is really good. But then I think the next book I read was Wilderness of Error and I remembered Jeffrey MacDonald because I remembered seeing like a 60 Minutes or something on it, or 2020 or an Inside Edition or hard copy or whatever it was back when I was a kid about this guy who said that these hippies came in and killed his family, but then he was arrested for it. And I remember thinking after watching that, how unjust that was, that these hippies killed this poor, ranger's kids, and he had to go to jail. One thing, he's not a ranger, he's a Green Beret, and he's not a Green Beret. One thing people pointed out to us, and I actually knew this, but I just let it slide, because if Jeffrey MacDonald wants to call himself a Green Beret, then he gets to call himself a Green Beret because it actually hurts him. Because if he's a Green Beret, he should be able to fight off some hippies. He's not actually a Green Beret. He's just a doctor. He was in the military, but he was just assigned to a Green Beret unit, which doesn't make him a Green Beret. But people did point that out, and just so people know, I knew that, but I actually think it's worse for him. If he wants to, claim that he's one, then he can explain how he didn't fight off the hippies.
Sorry, I'm back. I'm single parenting this week, and so I could let him cry it out, but
Yeah, I just want to point that out.
yeah, it's not.
If in case you just missed what Alice said, not only is she doing this Get Vocal tonight, she's alone. Like she's got the 2 kids and her husband's not home this week. So sacrifice. Right?
Anything for y'all. So sorry for running away for a second.
Alicia, your priorities are out of order. Going to Publix. I love that you're following this while in Publix. That's great. Are you guys going to get into Maura? Do you want us to get into Maura?
We don't have enough time. Nope.
I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, what I'll say is what's going on right now in the Maura Murray case has nothing to do with Maura Murray. I hope everybody recognizes that.
I think that's been the case for the last decade.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that's right. Yeah, Teresa, they have cut down all the trees, including the one that had the blue ribbon on it. They're doing some development. It's very sad. I mean, it's just really sad. I mean, the ultimate memorial to her is finding out what happened, right? And the fact that we're 17 years into this and we really don't know anything more. I mean, I don't know. I like Aaron. I like James. And I talked to both of them. And I was telling Aaron today that this is Romeo and Juliet. And at the end of Romeo and Juliet, half the people are dead. Nobody wins. Like, all are punished. Let's just, there's got to be some sort of end to this, but I don't foresee that coming. I fully intend to be deposed. I mean, or not intend, but I assume I will be deposed at some point. Alice will stay
Leave me out of it. Leave me out of it.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing is just like, it's crazy. It's crazy. And it's just, I don't know. I mean, there are so many articles that could be written about what's going on in the Maura Murray case. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it is just, if you're not in it, you just can't even comprehend how insane every day is. and I just, frankly, at this point, I just want out of it, but I don't know how to get out of it. I feel like I'm in like a black hole and my soul is being sucked out every day. And I just don't know how to escape. So.
How do you really feel about this, Brett? Goodness, a black hole, your big soul being sucked out.
It's just awful. It's awful. It's awful. And there's no getting out of it. It's just terrible. And you just want.
Well, one way to get out of it is to not talk about it, Brett.
I know, but you just keep telling yourself there's this. Maura is still missing. She's still missing. And are we just going to give up? Are we just going to, this is the thing. Are we just going to surrender to these people? Are we just going to let them win? Are we going to let the trolls win? Okay,
how do you deal with a toddler? You ignore them. Yeah. I know it's hard. I know. Yeah. I know. They are it's very different than toddlers. I get that. You bribe them. I do bribe. I did a lot of bribing tonight and it didn't work. I had a crying baby.
Yeah. Anyways, sorry, that was a rant. So I missed what you guys were saying on the side over here. Since nobody will get in here and talk to us. It's just Alice and I talking to ourselves.
We're all alone. People don't want to hang out with us.
I mean, we can just record a podcast tonight if you guys want us to. What is your take on the cult lead? The cult lead is BS. She's not in a cult in Vermont, okay? And I know people get upset when I say that on Twitter, that she's not in a cult in Vermont, but she's not in a cult in Vermont. I mean, if she's in a cult in Vermont, she's happy and she has some kids in Vermont, great, wonderful, terrific. I will be so happy. Nothing could make me happier than to have a Get Vocal where I just apologize and say I was so wrong about her being in a cult in Vermont. She's not in a cult in Vermont. I mean, she's not a bartender in Canada, and she's not living on the beach, with Brian Schaefer in Jamaica. Like, it's just not. It's not happening.
I wish her life were that happy right now, but I mean, go listen to the episodes. You know what we think about them. And really quick about the people who say that they don't want to get on the Get Vocal because they don't look pretty. Literally, Brett, you look beautiful as always, but you are with a newborn. And I was literally wrestling an alligator of a toddler right before this.
I haven't taken a shower in like a month, so I don't think I'm talking about
well, it's working for you. Whatever's happening, no showering. I guess the Get Vocal helps without the smell. Yeah. So you guys didn't care. I got on here despite you saw me. I'm not even fully dressed. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
I didn't think I was going to be standing up tonight. So.
There you go. That's the problem. You never know. Hillary,
Never
you
know.
did take your turn. You're a brave person. I appreciate
You
that.
sure did. You sure did. Okay, should we do some rapid fire questions? I asked you a question. You get to ask me a question. I always ask you personal questions.
I'm not good at
There's
asking
not really.
questions. That's my worst
You-
part about being a lawyer. Yeah. I don't even know. What did we
Oh,
talk
you
about
ask
last? What were the questions we asked last week? I know. That's why it's really bad, right? I chose the wrong profession. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, it's true. It's true. Notice she's talking about you, Alice, not me. Yes,
no,
yes,
Shannon, that's very nice of you to say, but that is beautiful. I mean, we are reaching the hour. I know there are some of you in the chat who are joining us from other time zones where it's probably a terrible hour. So thank you, first of all. All right.
yeah, and I just want to
pressing on-
say, you guys, our Patreon's been blowing up. Some of you guys are probably new. Thank you guys for joining. I realize, as we've said before, we have not been putting out as much stuff. We do have a 4-parter coming up, and I'm editing the last part right now. Probably going to go ahead and give you the first. Well, actually, I've already scheduled the first part for Friday at midnight. So if you stay up late, you get it. You get the first part. Very controversial case. Many of you are going to disagree with us. This is going to be. We're going to lose half our audience on this one, but I don't think I can tell you. I don't know. Can I tell you?
No. Well, you'll find out on Friday. Just because the hate's going to start coming. It's good.
Yeah,
no, it's not. It's not OJ. I will tell you that. It's not OJ.
Yeah.
But it is a case that a lot of you asked for, and we are giving it to you.
So many of you have asked.
So many of y'all asked for it. And it's really, apparently, everyone else in the world disagrees with us.
Yeah. Everybody disagrees with us. Like the conclusion we come to, no one agrees with. I'll give you that as the hint.
Yeah.
It's not Stephen Avery. I'll tell you, it's not John Bonet and it's not Stephen Avery. We're at least gonna do John Bonet one day. I don't know if we'll ever do Stephen Avery, but we're definitely doing John Bonet.
Someone asked, what do we want to cover? I want to cover John Bonet. I know it's going to be a monster. It might take 6 months, but
I just feel like I need 6 months off to do it. Right? Like,
I know.
I feel like it's one of those cases that's so hard to get
all
ready
my
to do.
Shows take time off for the summer, but we didn't take a summer off, so
no.
I don't know. Maybe we'll find some sabbatical from our day jobs and our podcast jobs.
The problem is work's getting crazy. Like I got a trial in August. I got a trial in October. Alice and I have a trial in February. Yeah. So
it's a lot of trials.
We may just have to quit this podcast. I don't know if it's gonna work out.
You're gonna make all these people cry.
I'm just kidding. We're gonna keep it going no matter what. But yeah. Okay, well, we'll ask you guys a question. I mean, since we're talking about cases you want to do, and we asked this question a long time ago, but now we've covered some. What cases do you want us to cover? You guys can answer in the left-hand column. I know a lot of you have sent us stuff. I have a running list. I promise. I have a running list I add to every time somebody sends us something. I add a name, and I no longer, when you start off doing this, you're like, what if we run out? What if we run out of things to talk about? And now it's like, what if we die before we cover all the cases we want to cover?
We'll definitely die before we cover all the cases.
We absolutely will. I mean, now it's actually, I feel like there's a lot of pressure. Like every time we pick a case, I feel like there's a ton of pressure because it's like, I'm going to die one day. And,
there's going to be a limited number of cases.
Exactly.
I will say the other day I looked at the number of episodes we have, and it's like close to 100, but I looked at the cases and I was like, it's not even that many cases, but it seems like we've recorded so many, but like in the realm of cases to be covered, it was such a small percentage.
Yeah. So I had a good friend who wrote a book on JFK, and he's like famous author, and this person, Alice, and he swears it was Lee Harvey Oswald. Like he's like, it's totally obvious. Like if you actually go to the book depository and you study it, like it was an easy shot. There's nothing complicated about this. Basically, from where he shot, and the reason I'm talking about this is because somebody mentioned JFK. Where he shot, it actually created sort of the illusion you always want when you're shooting, which is of your target stopping, right? Because of where he was, based on where he was in the direction of the car, when he fired, it was as if the car was sitting still for him, which made the shot much easier. So it was Lee Harvey Oswald. Sorry. Or aliens, one of the two.
We're losing JC on that one.
I know. Yeah, he doesn't believe me.
Okay, guys. I mean, just putting the pressure on. We are like over an hour, and and we'll take another last question if you want to give it. But if you don't, it's okay. If you want to go to bed.
I mean, if you guys don't want to talk tonight, we can go to bed. Like we generally stay up with y'all as long as you want, but it's like everybody's being shy tonight. We've literally only had one person actually join us in the boxes. But there's a ton of y'all here. But, you know, I can read a... see, do I have any more questions? Oh, I will say one. I did get another email from someone in Germany about the Hinterkaifeck case. And we kept saying that Lorenz, that they referred to him as the sledge maker in the documents. Actually, Schlittenbauer means sledge maker in German. So when the Google Translate is probably not actually speaking the language and trying to study the case. When Google Translate would translate his name, it would translate it as the sledge maker. So he may not have actually made sledges, but that was his last name.
That's awesome. That's very, very interesting. I have no idea how you join audio only. I could barely get on this Get Vokl myself, Teresa. I'm sorry. But if you want to cover your camera, you're allowed to. You can do this action.
If you, I don't know. Actually, I think, can I do it? I mean, people do it.
People do it, but I think they may just cover their.
They may just cover their camera.
Yeah. Someone
Also,
asked for a funny law school story. What's your funny law school story? I have one, but I don't think I'm allowed to tell it.
My funny law school story.
Oh, wait, let's take a real quick plug because I will not answer this on a Get Vokl, but because I won't. But we are going to be at Savannah Crime Expo, which is coming up in September, and Cheryl McCollum's going to be there, y'all. And it's going to be awesome. So we are going to be there in person. And I think Brett's going to be there. So for those of you who went to CrimeCon in Austin and didn't see Brett and wanted to see him and not me, you can see him in Savannah. Yeah. So it's a lot less expensive, I think, than CrimeCon as well. I think it's more cost effective. So, and
it seems like a lot of people are coming.
Yeah, it does. It seems really fun podcast wise too. A bunch of people we met at CrimeCon in Austin are going to the Crime Expo. So I'm just going to plug that a little bit for y'all if you want to come, and I will answer that question over drinks.
Oh, there you go. I have a lot of stories from law school, but I don't know how funny they are. Most of them involve drinking, of course. And yeah, they're long. I will tell one story that I told in a podcast and I cut it out. So I will tell you this
I remember that. Because
this story always makes me think of a lot of the cases we cover. So there was one night, my friends and I, if you guys have ever been to Cambridge is like, there's not a lot going on in Cambridge, right? So we went out to the bars and we left Cambridge and went to like one of the other little towns, like Somerville or, whatever. And afterwards we're walking back and we've walked a long way. And now it's 2:00 in the morning. And so we're trying to walk back to the dorms, and there are these fences that are blocking us from being able to get where we want to go. And they're making us walk to these roads that are like a long way away. And there are three of us, and two of my friends, or actually one of my friends was like, let's just walk to the road. And me and another guy are like, no, let's climb over the fence because that'll be faster. Right? Like, I don't want to walk all the way. Let's climb over the fence. And so me and this guy would go up and we're like trying to climb the fence and it's like really high. And our other friend's like, y'all are crazy. Don't do that. Don't do that. Get off the fence. And so finally we're like, okay, fine. We'll get off the fence. And so we walk with him down to the road, and we get to the road. It's not a road, it's a bridge. And from the bridge, you can tell that the reason there are fences is because there's a railroad track like 20 feet down. And the fence is like from the top is like a 30-foot drop to the railroad track. So if we had managed to climb over the fence, we would have ended up like dead in the railroad, run over by trains. And it would be this great mystery. Like, how did these three law students end up run over by trains? It must be some crazy, they were probably murdered and dropped out of helicopters, right? And in fact, it would just be that we climbed over the fences like a bunch of morons and died. So I always think about that when I think about some of our cases.
Terrible. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But that's a good point. You would not have been dropped out of a helicopter like people say Ray Rivera was.
That's right. I would have just been a moron. Not that Ray Rivera was a moron, but I would have been a moron. So anyways, but I'm trying to cut back. I'm trying to like build on this whole like not drinking for 42 days. So like I have a limit.
By just coming back with some bourbon.
Well, this is the only drink I'm having tonight. One drink, one bourbon. I think that's very reasonable, very respectful. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, guys, we're over an hour. Do you have any last questions before we sign off for tonight? This is Four Roses. That doesn't count as the last question. This is Four Roses, single barrel. Very good. Very good Scott or bourbon for like not too terribly expensive. I mean, all bourbon is expensive these days, but not too terribly expensive and very.
Okay, because I love Costco, who's not a sponsor of our podcast, but I would love it if they were.
Should be.
They actually have probably the best price of Four Roses single barrel at Costco Liquor. Little tip for you guys.
And I'll say this, a lot of the Costco liquors are really good. Like the Costco silver tequila is basically Patron. I mean, I think it's actually Don Julio, but it's like exactly the same. We can't tell the difference. And the other one they have is the Kirkland vodka is basically Tito's. So it really, once again, not paying us, but they should be. Really good deal if you're trying to survive inflation.
You can buy liquor at Costco. It's a separate section. Like you can only go in there if you're 21 or over, and it's an awesome section.
It used to not be that way. Here it used to be illegal too, but they changed the law a couple years ago. Got to get on that. And so they have Costco brand, and then they have a few real brands. Like Alice was saying, they have Four Roses. They have Maker's Mark. They have
actually a good number of like higher end alcohol, but then they also have their brand as well. And
their brand is amazing. What I do, this is illegal in a lot of states, if you're selling it, is I buy one bottle of the nice stuff, like the Don Julio. Like if you come over to my house, if you drink tequila, you're getting it out of the Don Julio or a Patron bottle, but it's totally Costco, right? Like I just fill up. I did not know that.
You should not have told me that.
Because you can only buy handles of vodka or handles of liquor at Costco, right? Because you got to buy everything in bulk, including the liquor. And it's hard to pour out of a handle bottle. This is. I'll tell you, this is the reason I do it. It's hard to pour out of a handle bottle, so I just fill up the old bottles. And it has the added benefit of when you make somebody a drink, it looks like you're really treating them. So,
man, I had no idea you were just serving me Costco brand.
That's how good Costco brand alcohol is. You can't tell the difference.
We really are not being sponsored by them. On that note.
Well, guys, look, this has been awesome. I'm so glad we did this. We're going to try and get back to a regular schedule of doing this at least once a month. Keep sending us your ideas. Keep sending us what you want us to cover. You guys are the best. You're awesome. We'll keep doing the shows for you and sending them to you ad-free. Tell your friends. And even though you're on Patreon, leave an Apple review. We got that really mean Apple review today. Somebody who thinks that we're the reason the pandemic is still going on because we record in person, as if our first episode was recorded yesterday or something. So you got to offset.
For those of you who don't know, it was recorded before the pandemic.
Yes. I mean, you knew the COVID. There was talk of the COVID out there, right? But it wasn't a thing. It was here.
It was literally half a world away at the time that we started recording. But anyways, all to say, counteract that 1-star review.
Yeah. So leave us a good review, and we will see you guys next time. But until then, I'm Brett,
and I'm Alice.
And we are the prosecutors. Yay. We missed you too, Elizabeth.
We missed all of y'all.
We did.
Oh my goodness. Thank you guys, all of you in the chat room, for putting up with half-dressed Alice running out to get a baby. You know why he cried though? It was really the reason I went to him is he just got a big boy bed. And it's scary. I know. So I felt for him. Big boy bed is scary.
Well, so our boy, we have him in the closet right now because our plan had been to put him in the nursery where our little girl is. But it was one of those things where it was like these glasses, by the way, are Felix Gray. So if you want a pair,
there you go.
You can get some for 25% off. Let's go to our website. Anyways, we could not bear to move her out of the crib. So he's now in the closet.
That's fine. It's fine. They're both very close to y'all. So my children are not in my room, but the reason I ran over is because my monitor was on. So if I didn't mute, y'all were going to get an earful of screaming at the top of his lungs.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a good opportunity. We say we wear the Felix Gray glasses. We actually do. These are the Hamiltons.
Mine are in here.
There you go. So you guys miss out on the ads. We had one person who told us that they're a patron, but they listen to the regular feed because they like to hear Alice read the ads. Alice, I note.
I think literally one person did that. One person.
It was one
said they
person.
did that.
It was one person.
And
But still.
I have to be real. Like I think I skip my own ads. Like when I'm listening.
Oh yeah. I mean, I totally skip the ads.
Don't tell our
Yeah.
sponsors.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Don't do that. See, that's why we trick you. Well, y'all don't know this. I mean, we trick you. I mean, everybody's like, you should have music in front of the ad so we can skip it. That's why we don't have music in front of the ads. So that you at least have to listen to a little bit of it.
That's part of the whole point, y'all. It's called what is it? Product placement.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I get it. I don't like ads either, but that's kind of part of the deal.
And the people who said they were angry about it, first of all, it's not like we're rolling in it, but it does pay for this thing.
There you go. And
because
if you're complaining about the ad, you can join all these good folks who are on here right now and be a patron. And guess what? You don't have to listen to ads. That's the other thing. It's like, quit being so selfish, people. Someone
asked if I recorded. I used to record in the closet. I still record in the closet. I came out tonight for Get Vokl because the air's better. Yeah, but I do. Yeah. So it's my setup, just so you guys know, like how real this closet recording is. The acoustics are not great. So I actually lay down like a blanket, actually a baby blanket, because it's the softest thing. And then I have a like cardboard Amazon box that I bring out and I put my computer on top of it. And then another cardboard Amazon box. So my microphone can be by my face. And then I sit down Indian style on my blanket in the middle of my closet to record.
And if you hear, like, Alice's sound is good, but you can hear the echo, or at least I can.
Yes.
As the editor of the podcast, I can hear the echo. And so when she does it in the closet, you can't hear the echo. There is no echo because those clothes like absorb the sound. But if she recorded, and the blanket you sit on, but if she recorded, like for me, I'm sitting in front of me as like a pile of pillows and sound absorption stuff, and to keep the echo down, because the echo is the worst. But I have to move because this is going to be little guy's room, so I have to build myself a new studio somewhere. The
closet works great.
I know. I got to move on my pillows. That's what I got to do. But anyway, oh, there's Alicia. See, we hung around long enough to see Alicia. Hello,
be careful,
Alicia.
You're still driving.
Yeah, Alicia,
I'm
don't wreck.
No, I just put my groceries up. I don't have any real questions, but
Alice and I had a hearing of a telephonic hearing once that was on Zoom, and one of the lawyers was in his car, and I swear he was driving the whole time. Like, he said he wasn't. He said he was pulled over on the side of the road. But yeah, it was like, dude, you're driving. Like, and the judge is asking questions. He's like, no, Your Honor. No, I'm good. It's like, dude.
Anyway. Oh, jeez. Well, Alicia, since you got on, you get to ask a question if you want.
Yeah, Alicia, if you have any questions.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I ask Brett anything on Twitter anytime I come up with a question, pretty much.
I got you unblocked, by the way. I did get that person unblock you.
Oh, thanks.
So now you can be a part of all the drama. So Alicia, in case everybody doesn't know, if you hated the Taylor Swift episode, it is Alicia's fault.
It was
awesome.
Alicia, not us.
It was the best ever.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Well, we're glad we get to see your face, but you were getting sandwiches, meaning you probably haven't eaten yet, huh?
Yeah, no, so.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks
Good
for showing us your face.
Thank you guys for staying on for me.
That's what we did. It's all for you. All for you. All right, guys. Well, for real this time, we're going to go ahead and cut it off. But it's been great to see you guys. Take care. We will see you soon. Bye, everybody.